Now we shift on to a conversation that every education wrestles with. How do we measure learning? Fairly, meaningfully, humanely? How do we do this? We're now going to be inviting panel members for an exciting panel discussion titled Beyond Grades, Rethinking Assessments and Placements, Measuring What Truly Matters. Please welcome me, join hands with me to welcome Ms. Uzma Yousaf, Country Director, Cambridge International Education. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. She's a visionary leader with a vision, depth, and global academic insight. Ms. Yousaf brings unparalleled experience in shaping assessment systems grounded in rigor, fairness, and future readiness. Thank you so much, Ms. Uzma. Joining her is Mr. Asad Hameed Khan, CEO ACCA Pakistan, one of the world's most influential qualifications in global finance. As a senior education industry leader, he brings deep insight into how assessments must evolve to measure not just knowledge, but competence, adaptability, and ethical reasoning in the real-world readiness. Next, we have the privilege of having Dr. Afshan Huma, an author, an educator, and a psychologist, a scholar of learning, behavior, and human development. Dr. Afshan Huma combines psychology, pedagogy, and research to understand how students truly learn. Next up, we have Ms. Sitara Fareed, our Head of Department of International Qualifications, Curriculum and Assessment. She leads quality assurance across the Millennium education, shaping systems that uphold rigor, integrity, and evidence-based improvement. Thank you so much, Ms. Sitara, for joining the panel. We also have Ms. Sadia Kashif, our Senior School Evaluator. She leads the School Evaluation and Enhancement Department with the Millennium Education Department. Thank you so much, panelists, for joining us. I now pass on the reins to Ms. Uzma Yousaf, her capable hands. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Amna. Thank you for an introduction that does not belong to me at all. I just work with Cambridge, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of one of the world's best universities where we work together to make sure that the excellence of greatest universities in the world is brought to the doorsteps of students in 160 countries. And really, really honored to be here with all the roots, family, roots teachers, people I've seen growing up with me and growing old with me now. So we have a very long way back going together from where the school started, where we all were, and where we are today. First of all, extremely engaging sessions, brilliant conversations this morning. The biggest thing generally on my mind always is what's most important in education. And I think people sitting around here are the most important stakeholders in education. No matter what we do, what happens in the classrooms is at the heart of every effort that we are making, everything we are doing. So a huge round of applause for the most important people in our lives. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Yesterday was amazing. Today is going to be even more wonderful, I think, from all the talks that I've heard so far. So I think सबसे बड़ा सबके दिमाग पे सवाल ये है, including myself, you know, world is changing. We are all running after grades. A star होना चाहिए कि A होना चाहिए, कितने A's होने चाहिए, कितने B's होने चाहिए. All of that, and then we are faced with a world, like Faisal was saying yesterday also, we all know change is the only constant, but this time the rate of change is a bit more drastic than we've seen. It's like changes that happened back in the Industrial Revolution, and you know, things like Industrial Revolution changed the way people worked, but there were haves and there were have-nots. There were people who profited from it, but there were large sectors of the society that were not able to take advantage of it. So what are we trying to do here as educational institutions and as stakeholders in the system, as parents? It's a very strongly knit, a very strongly interwoven ecosystem that we operate in. And at the heart of all of this is the student that we are entrusted with to prepare them for the future. How can we prepare them, and how do they feel? Do they feel that giving them, grades and doing assessments is going to be what is going to make them ready for the world? The other question is, what is our understanding of what they feel and what we feel? So I'm going to share a few insights from you based on a survey that we did, which is spanned across 160 countries. We spoke to students, parents, teachers, and we tried to understand what they all think. So I hope this will be something that you find interesting. So if you ask a typical 17-year-old, are you ready for what comes next? Many will hesitate. So this was a global learning exercise that we did, and which found that less than half of the students will feel prepared for their next step. Yet their teachers, who see the day-to-day growth, generally believe that the students are more ready than they realize, which is actually absolutely true, because you see the potential in them and they see the fears of the future. So there's a gap between readiness and students realizing and recognizing how ready they are. So one part of our job is to make sure that this gap is closed. We are confident because the scale and diversity of the evidence behind it is unbelievable. So we spoke to nearly 4,000 students aged between 16 to 19 and over 3,000 teachers across 150 countries. And we spoke to about 50 experts as well. So then we thought about how can we close that gap, and this is all coming from an organization which is an international organization for education and publishing and books and so much more, but known mostly as the world's largest assessment organization. So the shift, number one, is from scores to evidence of capability. A grade tells you something, but it doesn't tell you everything. It doesn't show how a student planned a project, managed time, solved a messy problem, or helped a team get unstuck. Our research shows that something is very important, that both students and teachers value subject knowledge, especially from moving to the next stage of education. But they sometimes undervalue knowledge for the long term. You must have heard a lot of students saying, I don't know, why did I do calculus? I never applied it. However, in an AI world, this is a big mistake. Knowledge is not obsolete. It's a material that we think with. And that's what makes judgment and creativity possible. So when people say we don't need teachers, we don't need content, we just need a device, how will you make decisions if you don't know what the truth is, if you don't have a basis to build your judgments on? So what we need to do is to keep the rigor of external assessment, and we need to add more authentic tasks like projects, portfolios, and performances. We want students to show teamwork, communication, and problem solving. We need to give universities and employers something that they can see, which is more than just a number or an alphabet grade. We already have credible ways to blend externally assessed pieces with internally assessed work. We just need to use the same more deliberately. And when we say more deliberately, by which I mean something that Roots and ourselves have been trying to work together. For example, so this survey is between 16 and 19 because this is after where they go to universities. But do we feel that all these skills of critical thinking, being confident, dealing with success and failure, they don't develop, of course, at the age 14 and above. We train students from much earlier on. So this brings back the importance of the foundational years, where we start working with students in early years and leading them up. And the other big shift is from one big test to continual growth. So that's why we emphasize so much on primary, on early years, and on teachers being extremely capable in the age group that they're dealing with, so that each age group each stage gets the recognition they need. And when we talk about assessments, assessments at different ages mean different things. We talk about assessment for learning, not assessment of learning. We need to do assessments in a way that support learning. And there's various ways of doing that. One point I really wanted to share with you is that sometimes we feel that we are slow to change in the education sector. But systems change slowly for good reasons. What you need to have in an education system and other systems of assessment is trust, fairness, and comparability. We don't want innovation just for the sake of saying that we have innovated. Education has to lead technology and not the other way around. We want purpose-driven changes that make assessments more valid and more humane, and also that the public can trust. So if you quickly change something, one example was, one of the local exam boards wanted to do AI marking. We advised you shouldn't do AI marking because none of the exam boards internationally, not just Cambridge, we are not ready to do AI marking yet. We are training for it, we're working on it, but we can't do it. Not to the point of rigor and validity that is of human marking. We didn't do it, they did, and I think we know the results. The other thing is, we've been talking about student agency. So from silence to voice, the world is changing and our signaling to the world needs to change. AI is here, it can accelerate learning, but it also raises hard questions about reliability, fairness, and transparency. So any innovation needs to keep integrity front and center. And you can't teach integrity unless you have teachers who have integrity, who know the values, and who can act as compasses in classrooms with their students. Hybrid and interactive tasks are becoming more normal. However, we can't forget digital divide, and at the same time, we can't be perpetuating another divide which is worse than the previous one. So we have to be extremely mindful. Sometimes we think that if there is a divide, we are the beneficiaries of it. But history tells you a divide always leads to net negative results for everybody. So unless everyone has something, those who have something cannot live in a world that they can cherish living in. There'll always be dangers, there's always be problems. Inequality never leads to anything good. The most important lesson we've learned during COVID and afterwards is well-being matters. We've got not just the big assessments, but other stuff that looks at how children performed at one point in time and what was their mental state and state of mental well-being at the time. You can have a look at their performance later in the year, and we've got more than ample evidence to demonstrate that children who are mentally feeling better, who are emotionally stable, do better in schools and in exams as well. The other important thing we can't forget, which is a part of everything that we're doing, is climate disruption is already interrupting schooling. So even for assessments, we'll need to have flexible, resilient assessments that sometimes has to travel with learners. We're talking about digital, we're also talking about profiles that students must have. So learning has to continue while life is unstable. And that is one fact we can't change. What we can change is our response to it. So again, the questions that we are going to ask today are about grades and what do we need beyond grades. So this was just a little bit of background to what we had. Now I'm going to share with you some small takeaways that our experts looked at. How can you support learning? How can you support your students? For example, something you can do in the classroom. So in terms of skills, in every scheme of work, they recommend that we signpost where students will practice self-management, collaboration, communication, and how you will give feedback. Now, feedback is extremely important. As you know, in the morning we talked about teachers. I completely agree that you need to be celebrated far more than you are. But how will your day be if you had the whole day without anyone telling you how well you did? And the impact of that feedback on students is extremely important and far more magnified as a young child than it is for adults. If we don't name feedback, if we don't tell them what we have observed, they will not be able to see it for themselves. And another important thing that I think all of us need to do is we have to make reflection a routine. After every big task, for example, we can ask 3 small questions. What did I plan? What changed? What would I do differently? And in simple words, that's metacognition. We talk about metacognition all the time, but I think now the time is where we need to bring all that we talk about into practice in our classrooms. So beyond grades, what do we need to measure? What do we need to give them? We need to measure how have we taught them curiosity? How do they turn knowledge into insights? We need to measure, have we given our children voice? Have we given them the courage to explain and also to listen and to persuade? We have to see if we've helped them build character. How do they plan? How do they persist? And how do they learn from their mistakes? And we need to be sure that standards are clear. We need to be sure that standards are clear, comparable, and trusted. It's a big ask, easier said than done, but I think these are the things that we need to measure more than the end of year summative exams, who have their own place. They've got more of a place now because of AI and other things, and looks like that 1 hour, 2 hour exam is going to be important. But that exam and that exam result alone is not going to make them ready for the world. So if they have curiosity, if they have voice, if they have character, and if they know what standards they are being measured against, our students won't just be ready, they will also realize that they're ready. And so will the world be. So I think that's our basic thesis today. And based on those thoughts, I'm now going to ask my panel members questions about how they think students can be ready. So early in the morning, talking about exams, if we like them or not, and if assessments are relevant or not, I know it's a bit much, but can we start? I think, ma'am, you are a psychologist as well. So first, your thoughts on what do you feel about all of this dilemma that we face? Exams are important, other things are even more important. Your thoughts?
Thank you so much. And thank you, Uzma, for setting the stage for us and making it easy for us as well. The very first thought that I was having while listening to you or while going through the materials that were already shared, as you are using the word exams, so I think the word itself comes from the pedagogy and assessment of 20th century. Talking about 21st century skills, I personally eliminated 2 words from my book. One was evaluation and one was exam, in the meanings that we have been using them before. The more meaningful words that you used by the end of your initial talk was reflection and feedback. If we are saying that we are doing assessments, not just assessment of learning, but assessment for learning, then we should be very clear that this cannot be one-day exam, or this cannot be a few hours exam. This has to be a process. So if we say this has to be a process, it means that our formal and summative assessments have to be connected to each other. should not stand out alone, which were so before. Now let's come to the psychological aspects of it. By the end of 20th century, we were looking at the classrooms and assessments with a constructivist point of view, that students construct knowledge. They don't just receive knowledge. So they construct knowledge through their interaction in classroom, beyond schools, in homes, beyond homes. With the emergence of technology, and now in this moment with the emergence of IT, the students and us as well go beyond constructivism and go to connectivism. So when I use these two words together, the first thing constructivists gave beyond cognitivists, because cognitivists gave lower order thinking, higher order thinking, and that's it. Constructivists gave us the idea of zone of proximal development.
Yes.
I can do certain things. I can do certain things with help, and I cannot do certain things without engaging two other learners or experts. That's where connectivism comes in. If I am assessing a child alone, and I tell them, my first PhD assignment was marked all red, and my evaluator called me and said, did you do it alone? And I proudly said yes. And his question was, why? Why did you even try to do this alone? Do you live alone in this world? And I was like, no. And he said, do you do everything alone? I said, no. And he said, why do you try to learn alone? And then I asked myself, why do I assess the child alone? If we are talking about collaboration, if we are talking about connectivism, and we are believing in this moment, year 2025 ending, that we are moving with collaborative learning, we are moving with connectivism, the child is connected beyond the classroom, beyond any limit, then why to assess the child alone? My point is that the assessment needs to be in a reflective and critical cycle. If it is a reflective and critical cycle, it begins with the child or the learner themselves assessing or reflecting upon their own activity and their progress. Peers looking at each other's work, not just reflecting but critiquing it. And then at the third level comes the instructor. And there's a dialogue about it.
You're absolutely right, Dr. Afshan. Let's ask Sadia, because what you're saying is not something, assessment is not just an exam that you take at the end of the year. It's the whole process of learning, and then assessment. When good teaching and learning happens in a classroom, grades get better anyway. However, even if grades don't get better, if we are able to bring this to life, then you will have a human being who's ready. And grades may not matter as much either. So, सादिया, हमने बड़ी-बड़ी बातें तो की हैं. मैंने कहा जी 1000 स्कूल ये कह रहे हैं, वो हो रहा है. मैडम डॉक्टर अफशान ने भी बिल्कुल. आप ये बताएं, आपका चैलेंज है कि ये how do you make it happen in the classroom?
Thank you very much, Uzma. Hello, everybody. This is a very, very important question. My core job is to evaluate, and in evaluation, attainment comes in. And when we talk of attainment, is the numbers. So here comes the grades and the numbers and why these are important. Having said that, there are a lot of teachers in the classroom that I have witnessed during the observations, other than that, doing projects where they connect the lesson content cross-curricular. And that's how they're building those skills which are extremely important and the skills of the 21st century. We talked of connectivity, we talk of interactiveness, And we see using the AI as well, when the teachers are actually making it happen in the classroom, when they are making learners learn through those interactive games. Do you do that? All right. And if the ones who are learning to do that, it's wonderful because now the children, they are not like immigrants of technology. We were probably the immigrants of technology. Learners are born users of technology. And now they actually feel unsafe at times. They also do not feel that comfort in the classroom if we do not talk of their interest. So that is one of a very, very important thing. If we actually keep the interest, the curiosity, the creativity inside the classroom, outside the classroom, with one another, and also provide the opportunities for the learners to actually think beyond what actually is said to them. So that is how teachers are doing it in the classroom. When I was I was teaching class, O-levels. I was an English teacher. And I remember there was this essay that I wanted my learners to write on, and it was on life, the topic was related to life. And then at that point in time, there was this Avril Lavigne's song, quite hip at that point in time. It is called Complicated. And I asked my learners to listen to that song first in the classroom. Think about that. And then pick up the vocabulary, pick up certain ideas from that. And that's how actually everybody wrote about their own life situations, their own life problems. And that's how the learner could be assessed. I was there as a teacher to assess them on definitely on a criteria. But by reading their write-ups where they have talked about different life challenges, it actually made them connected to that boring essay writing lesson.
Well, that's amazing. I think that's a really good example. And that's your challenge at the school level. So, we have Asad with us, who heads one of the most well-known awarding organizations in Pakistan, from the UK, and with very high employability, brilliant future, and you're also faced with similar challenges as all of us are. So what role do you think competency-based or portfolio assessments play in showcasing employability? Because at the end of the day, we are making them ready for the world of, I won't say work or jobs, but productivity at least.
Thank you much, Uzma. I'd like to firstly acknowledge and thank TMUC, Chaudhry Faisal Mushtaq, Dr. Chaudhry Faisal Mushtaq, for this wonderful initiative. The entire context of why we are sitting over here, you see, this is what compelled me to really think about what to talk in today's conversation. So we are speaking to nation builders, we are speaking to the teachers, and in Pakistan's context, your role is very important. So firstly, I'd like all of you to acknowledge and clap for yourselves for the wonderful role and contribution that you're making, not just to TMUC, but Pakistan as a whole. The ACCA, you've already mentioned, we are a global accounting body. Our global community of 800,000 members and future members, they represent 180 countries. So what ACCA brings on the table is this inclusive insights, these global insights, where we endeavor to develop professionals that are fit for purpose, that are employer ready, that are business ready, that are probably setting up their own business ready, in a way that they meet the demands all the way from Australia to Canada. And it helps us understand the key denominators. So when we look at those key denominators, so what is it that we are preparing our student in terms of their journey? So the focus has to be on the journey. So what is the end point of the journey? The end point of the journey is that the role of the professional accountant, you see, previously we were number crunchers half a century back, then we became report generators, and in today's world, the professional accounting profession has shifted from chief financial officers to chief value officers. So it's all about value creation. how do you create value? So you picked up a lot of the elements. So in terms of how we look at the learning competencies or the learning outcomes for our future members is you have to understand ACCA qualification structure. We have a foundations level. Then we have, once the foundations are built, you have a knowledge level. Then you have a skills assessment level. And then what we call the strategic professional level. All this put together is just one component, which is the examination part. But ACCA is 3 E's. So with this examination, you need to build in ethical competence, you need to build in ethical skepticism, and you need to create ethical champions, and they need to learn and be aware of real-life ethical dilemmas. And with the ethical dilemmas, obviously, once the 2 E's work together, the third E comes in, which is experience. So all these 3 E's put together is what develops a professional accountant. And it is under a professionally, globally recognized education standards which are issued by the International Federation of Accountants. When it comes to ACCA, because we carry, I would say, also the burden as well as the expectation of 180 economies, our global tagline or vision is to be leading in terms of developing the accountancy profession, but now we believe that we are leading in terms of developing economies. So when you have to develop the economy, what do you look at? You look at the skills that are not just required within your economy, but which are also globally required, accepted, and needed. And it is not a surprise that, you see, with our 250 million population, with about 90 million individuals that are under the age of 18, we have this huge opportunity that we are sitting on at the moment, where Pakistan, going forward, can not just only be the factory, the human capital factory of the world, but the service provision factory of the world as well. So opportunity and employability is what we will be focusing on. When we are developing our curriculum, which is in consultation with educators, with universities, with our learning partners, with employers, so with all that put together, so there are 3 C's we are developing. Number one is capability. Number two is character. And the third one is the competence. And all this put together, and how do we put this together? So within the assessment or how we assess our students, we have to be, and we have to understand that ACCA about half a decade back shifted completely to computer-based exams. At today, so that is a green, sustainable endeavor that ACCA undertook with a view to obviously supporting the planet, but also in terms of developing skills. So when our students from day one, they do not pick up the paper, they do not pick up the pen for exams, they work on the computer, and they're supported by tools like Word, like for their computations and calculations, Excel, and for their presentation, their evaluations and their recommendations, PowerPoint. So that's the sort of readiness that we build in them. So there are 6 cognitive skills that we are evaluating, which are categorized in 3 levels. So the first level is all about comprehension and the knowledge that you have. The second level is your ability to apply that knowledge and to be able to analyze. And the third level is how you're able to synthesize that information and you're in a position to recommend and to create an advice. Why? Because we believe that we are building the future strategic business leaders. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Asad. And I think that's coming from someone who's preparing students for the actual world of work, world of productivity, it kind of, I feel optimistic that we are at least on the same understanding and on the same track. So I wanted to ask Sitara, you deal with a lot of exam boards, you deal with a lot of systems. So how do you feel are all of us, the international exam boards and schools, do you think we are moving at a pace which is required, or do you think, and what's your challenge when you do this with the parents? So I'll give you a small example. I have 8-year-old twins. I don't want them to be tested. I don't want them to be labeled according to grades. My son is, someone who can ace anything. My daughter is equally intelligent, but she hates competition. However, as a parent, I feel pressured to put my children in that competition. So does the school. But because they say parents aren't happy. So as someone dealing with all this ecosystem, what are your biggest challenges and where do you see glimmers of hope?
Thank you very much, Uzma, for this question. But believe you me, when I was preparing for this topic, because we are all, first of all, teachers at heart, and for anything that we are asked to do, first of all, we prepare. So I will take the liberty of, having this opportunity to speak to my teachers and to this esteemed panelist, and also, esteemed audience, people who are at the level of policy making, that when I was, exploring and preparing for this topic, I came across a very recent talk by the biggest entrepreneur in the world at the moment, Elon Musk, who was talking at Saudi Investment Forum this Wednesday. And I don't know how Sir Asad Hameed will react to what I'm about to say, that he said that in 2 decades' time, employment, ladies and gentlemen, will be a choice. So, Uzma, with your
I know
twins,
employment
will be a choice. But I think that this is something, when we are talking about people who are curating future at the moment, people who are making this world move forward. So yes, we will. I'm coming to that. So I thought that this is something that I would like to share. So yes, the challenge that we are facing, this is at the moment the biggest thought in my mind, and I could not, move forward without saying it. So the challenge that we are facing, I'm working with my Department of International Qualification, Assessment and Curriculum, and at the moment we are dealing with multiple exam boards, and we are dealing with our own local exam board. We also have our, teachers who are at the receiving end of what we are doing. And just recently, what we did last week was preparing exam papers. And the conversations that we were having in our departments were that this question that I have designed for my teachers, what is going to be the expected answer from my learner? And from this question, what am I going to assess? So this is beyond grades that I'm going to. So am I going to assess only recall? Am I going for only knowledge? Am I going for critical thinking? And am I asking them for their independent opinion? So when we are dealing with all these different requirements of different exam boards and exam bodies, so we are, the challenge at the moment is that not only that we have to take the current learner who is in our class at the moment, but also the expectations that the exam bodies have, and to align all this. And when we are aligning all this, I think that, I am absolutely empathizing with my teachers who are at the, helm of all these affairs, who are receiving from your end, Uzma, from my end as well, and who are also receiving from the parental end, and who are working with these future citizens of our country. So, so the challenge is to keep all these factors in our mind. But with this challenge, also there is a pleasure. There's a pleasure to work with this opportunity and to have this opportunity to, to be able to, through these traditional assessments and through this question number 1 MCQs, question number 2 short questions, then going to the C part and going to the practical based paper and going to the paper 2 of English and Parcha 2 of Urdu, we are trying to assess the attributes that we have set for our learners. Are we catering to those attributes? That learner attributes, TME learner attributes, are they confident? Are they able to communicate? Can they think independently? Are we giving them through these assessments? Are we giving them opportunities to demonstrate these attributes? So for those attributes to be assessed, we need our teachers to have the similar attributes and more than that. And more
Thank
than
you so
that.
much,
So
Sitara.
these are the challenges I believe that we have to go beyond grade, but with grade.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Sitara. That's really interesting. I have a question for you, Sadia, actually. मुझे ये बताएं कि जो सितारा कह रही हैं, it makes perfect sense. लेकिन how do you deal with a parent जो ये कहता है, आप कहते हैं कि they are a very well-rounded child, वो sports में भी अच्छे हैं, वो class में भी participate करें, वो सब करें, लेकिन कुछ बच्चे होते हैं उनको एग्ज़ाम एंग्जाइटी होती है. मैं हाई स्टेक की नहीं बात कर रही, मैं अर्लियर स्टेजेस की भी बात कर रही हूँ, लेकिन उनके ग्रेड वैसे नहीं है. तो इज़ इट एन ईजी सेल टू अ पेरेंट टू से कि नहीं ठीक है आपका बच्चा ब्रिलियंट है, दे कैन बी ब्रिलियंट एंड नॉट डू वेल इन एग्ज़ाम, और या फिर ऑन द अदर हैंड एक बच्चा है जो पेपर पे बहुत अच्छा करता है बट डज नॉट एंगेज, डज नॉट कोलैबोरेट, तो उस वक्त आप क्या करती हैं?
Okay, बहुत important question है, and very close to my heart also when I talk to the teachers as well and also to the leadership team. So this is actually, I would like to just introduce a term over here. It is called ipsative assessment. So ipsative assessment is the periodic checkups of the child, and it's not actually comparing the child with any other child. It's the comparison with his own performance. So the first time he's looking at something, what has that child able to observe? The second time, he's been given a new object, so the difference between the two. So I think this is one of the things that we need our teachers to be trained on, because this is how we can actually make our stakeholders also satisfied that we are putting in effort, and that effort is actually bearing some results which are important for the child's progress over time. So it will definitely help that child to reach that benchmark. Every child will learn one way or the other. And everyone in this world knows something about everything. So that is, that is very, very important, that we realize that the child that sits in front of us in the classroom is not someone who doesn't know anything. He has his own canvas. He has probably painted something on the canvas. We need to pick that color up, and then we need to actually flourish it further.
Thank you so much. That's a really good answer. And I think Pakistan में हमारा थोड़ा सा ये जी, आपके लिए एक और सवाल भी, और you can come in as well. आप please बोलें.
Really perfect. I think this is a very important question, whether the grades represent someone's capability. I think what we have evaluated within ACCA in my personal experience is that grades is a reflection of your preparation, not your capability. So your capacity can be something different, how well you were able to approach a particular subject, and what are the variables. So within the assessment, you look at somebody's professional acumen, you look at the professional skepticism, you look at the ability to communicate, you look at the ability of critical thinking, you look at the ability for problem solving. So if you're able to construct a grade based on these variables, you would see that you would pick up on the strengths of an individual. And now just to add on, AI is helping creating these personalized insights for children, for students, even for professionals, in terms of their organizational evaluation, because you need to have a certain value, behavior, or competencies within certain roles. So I just wanted to add that dimension, that for all parents, even for all teachers, that grades will always be a representation and reflection of one's preparation level, not one's capability.
Thank you for your perspective. And आप ही की तरफ में आ रही थी डॉक्टर अफशान. अब हमारे पास 10 minutes देने जी हमने क्वेश्चन आंसर्स को. आमना 10 minutes for question answer. ठीक है. सो हमारे पास 10 मिनट, तकरीबन 9 मिनट और हैं. आप अपने एडिशन के साथ हमें ये भी बताइएगा. मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाह रही थी कि देखें, एक तो ये कॉन्टेक्स्ट है जिसमें हम सब कह रहे हैं कि दीज आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स टू डू एंड वी ऑल अंडरस्टैंड. एक हमारा कल्चरल कॉन्टेक्स्ट है जिसमें आप जब मैं इंग्लैंड जब पढ़ने गई थी तो मेरी बेस्ट फ्रेंड नॉर्वेजियन थी. हमारे पहले एग्ज़ाम के बाद मैंने उससे पूछा कि हाउ मच डिड यू गेट, एंड शी डिड नॉट टॉक टू मी फॉर अ वाइल. मैंने कहा ये क्या बात हुई, यू नो, आई आस्क्ड यू अ वेरी सिंपल क्वेश्चन. शी सेड यू इन्फ्रिंज्ड माय personal space, you asked me a question that you shouldn't have asked. हमारा कल्चर ये है, और हम एक ही यूके यूनिवर्सिटी में थे, वही बच्चे कैम्ब्रिज का एग्ज़ाम यहाँ दे रहे हैं, वही यूएस में या यूरोप में दे रहे हैं. हमारा कॉन्टेक्स्ट ये कि जैसे पहले तो एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग सी थी, हमारे एक फैमिली फ्रेंड है, उनके बच्चे पढ़ाई इतनी अच्छी नहीं कर रहे थे, उनके ग्रेड्स अच्छे नहीं आ रहे थे, तो उन्होंने अपनी बेटी को कहा तुमने मुझे ऐसा कोई रिजल्ट ही नहीं दिया कि मैं अपनी फेसबुक पे डाल सकता. तो उस बच्ची ने पढ़ना शुरू कर दिया और उसके रिजल्ट्स बेहतर हो गए. तो इन दो दुनियाओं को, इन दो स्कूल्स ऑफ थॉट को ब्रिज करने के लिए डॉक्टर साहब हम क्या कर सकते हैं?
उस बच्चे की जगह मेरी तरह की कोई बच्ची होती तो कहती कि अच्छा डील विद इट. ओके, दो तीन चीज़ें मेरा ख्याल है हमें यहाँ वापस कनेक्ट कर लेनी चाहिए. देयर वर टू वर्ड्स यूज्ड इन द मॉर्निंग टॉक एंड बाय यू एज वेल. दैट वाज एजेंसी. Comparing a child with the children around, or telling the child that you are in competition with others, ये बहुत देर से है और बहुत देर रहा है. I think what we are talking today is beyond that. That no child is in competition with another child. Yes, a child is in competition with yesterday, but not with somebody else. This is where we all are together. Second point जो हमें miss नहीं करना है, that is agency of the child. The pedagogy and assessment model that I proposed for Pakistani classrooms and parents, इसमें दो बहुत important चीज़ें हैं. In the early years education, when it is a child in psychological terms, अभी वो under the age of 13 है, you need an adult to be with the child and then take agency that what options the school is providing and what are they choosing for their children, right? हम parents को result day पे बुला रहे हैं, while in the latest pedagogy the parent has to be there in the beginning of the term with the teacher in early years, right? And then choose a pathway and then go on with the teacher and see how the child is progressing. Giving agency to the child, मैं अभी recently जिस school के साथ, school system के साथ काम करी थी, we asked children to prepare their own assessment tool. And they made such nice assessment tools. Then I brought this back to my grad students. And I asked my students to prepare a question for themselves, which they are going to solve at the end of the day. So providing that agency to the learner and then letting the learner go towards that metacognition level. वो खुद को assess कर रहा है, that is metacognition. वरना तो फिर हम कॉग्निशन से आगे नहीं.
आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रही हैं, लेकिन मुझे जहाँ आपकी बात में एक बारीक नुक्ता नज़र आया वो शायद ये भी था कि जब आपने एक बात की कि जो बच्चा है आप 13 ईयर्स तक देख लें, उसमें उस एडल्ट का होना, द कॉम्पिटेंट एडल्ट, तो ये बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट बात है. आपने उसको एजेंसी लर्निंग में देनी है, लेकिन वो जो पेरेंट्स वाली बात की वो हम कल भी कर रहे थे. अगर एक बच्चा घर में 10 घंटे स्क्रीन टाइम पे है, अगर वो बच्चा उसके खाने पीने के हालात ख़राब हैं, उसको न्यूट्रिशन, पाकिस्तान में बाय द वे जो हम बात करते हैं कि हमारे बच्चे स्टंटेड हैं, तो वो जो सर्वे हुआ था तो वो स्टंटेड बच्चों में से बड़ी सारी पॉपुलेशन इस्लामाबाद के अंदर थी. आपकी बड़ी, योर प्लेट्स आर फुल बट दे आर नॉट न्यूट्रिएंट डेंस, दे न्यूट्रिशन पुअर, और वो सब कॉग्निशन पे होता है. अगर आपको मेरे जैसा माँ बाप, अगर मैं आपको एक बच्चा भेजती हूँ जिसको मैं कार्ब्स खाली खिला रही हूँ या जंक खिला रही हूँ, उसके सोने जागने की टाइमिंग्स नहीं हैं, आप क्या कर लेंगे उसके साथ?
कैपेसिटी विल बी अफेक्टेड.
आप बिल्कुल कुछ नहीं स्कूल बेचारा कर सकता. तो दिस इज़ वेयर पेरेंट्स कम इन, लाइक यू सेड. एंड अगेन जो मैंने पढ़ा है अभी तक, जो मुझे समझ में आई है कि चिल्ड्रन ऑल्सो थ्राइव ऑन सिक्योरिटी एंड रूटीन्स. उनको एक वो एडल्ट, कॉम्पिटेंट एडल्ट चाहिए. उनको ये पता होना चाहिए कि अब मुझे खाना मिलेगा, अब मेरे जागने का टाइम है, अब मेरे सोने का टाइम है, अब मेरा बाथ टाइम है. तो ये जो कई दफ़ा हम सोचते हैं कि एजेंसी का मतलब है कि उनको छोड़ दो उनके ऊपर. तो आई थिंक वो एक आपने बहुत बारीक नुक्ता उठाया है, विच इज़ वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग, एंड आई एम सो ग्लैड यू डिड. And by the way, for those who are interested, there's a lot of literature around it and very accessible. मेरे जैसे बंदे को भी समझ आ जाता है. तो one of my favorite authors these days is Jonathan Haidt. आप उनकी किताबें देख लें, उनकी नहीं तो talks भी available हैं. And he talks about, you know, coddling of the American mind, the anxious generation. Then another nice book has come out, which is called The Happiness Hypothesis, जो हमें help करेगी. So very, very interesting stuff going on. A lot of research has been done. So a lot of questions or knowledge bases there जिस पे हम build कर सकते हैं. तो अब मैं वापस आऊँगी जो सितारा ने बात की थी, जो बड़ी interesting थी, और आपसे हम दोबारा बात करेंगे. आप हमें ये बताएं, असद के 20 साल के बाद कोई नौकरी नहीं होगी, ऑप्शनल होगा, पैसे कहाँ से मिलेंगे हमें?
देखिए, that's a very important thing. अगर आप उसको breakup करें, 20 साल के बाद नौकरी क्यों नहीं होगी? So we are technically saying कि 20 साल के बाद GDP नहीं होगा, economies, productivity नहीं.
The idea is that employment will be a choice.
जी जी, मैं
It's not that it won't be there, it will be a choice.
मैं उसी चीज़ पे आ रहा था. देखें, so employment is a choice. So it's the how part. Whether I am my own business owner, whether I am running my own shop, I want to work flexible, I want to work remotely, I want to work at an organization, I want to work for multiple organizations. There is a concept of freelancing. आपने देखा, Pakistan is the 4th largest freelancing generation. So what we foresee going forward is that there is no technology that is going to take away jobs. It is only going to create new jobs and make certain jobs redundant, which are repetitive, which can be done through technology. For example, आज से 20 साल पहले, 25 साल पहले, when technology wasn't there, so the best part about being a professional accountant was that how good you are on the calculator and you don't make mistakes. Then the next stage was that how good you are in terms of drawing the financial statements. Now, then the next part was that how good you are in terms of drawing analysis or creating trends, understanding for the businesses to make strategic decisions. Now you are a partner in strategic decision making. So, देखें, we have to understand कि future skills जो पाकिस्तान के लिए ज़रूरी हैं और जो professional accounting में by default built in है. Number one, use of technology. That's part of every profession. Technology के अंदर, what is AI bringing in? AI is bringing, what is the difference between AI and human intelligence? मेरे हिसाब से basic तरीन difference is that human intelligence cannot at once collate all the information which is in the brain. It takes batches, it takes time to retrieve that information. LLM, which is ChatGPT, which is AI, is going to help you retrieve that information. So ये retrieval bit है. Next is the predictive part. So based on the analytical part, can we predict कि पिछले pattern में crops growing season क्या था, किस time पे seed grow करना चाहिए, किस type का seed grow करना चाहिए, when the rains will happen, when you will have the irrigation happening. So that sort of information is what going to help. So professional accountant यही काम अपनी productivity के लिए भी करते हैं, यही काम वो अपनी people management के लिए भी करते हैं, यही काम वो अपने customers के लिए भी कर रहे हैं, यही काम वो अपने creditors के लिए भी कर रहे हैं. So jobs will grow, the types of jobs will change. How we do those, the ways of working, they will change. We started with physical, in COVID it was digital, now it's hybrid. Going forward, it could be back to physical, it could be back to hybrid. And last but not the least, I think the most important point for us to understand is that we now have the Gen Beta that we have to look at. We have seen baby boomers, we have seen the Generation X. Today we are grappling with Gen Z. Then we have Gen Alpha. और अब Gen Beta भी आ रही. They have more information, they have more purpose, they have more clarity on how to manage their time. So the onus is on us to make them productive citizens. They know what they have to do. So probably, you see, I'm going to make a very bold statement, even from ACCA. Our businesses, our operations are under threat if we are not able to meet their needs and create that future productive citizen that is going to be the value creator for your nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's really insightful. And I think what I've heard from a lot of, as you know, I'm going to plug in what Cambridge does. So Cambridge has been producing, the most future-ready people. When I talk about Cambridge, I mean Cambridge University, the future, what the father of AI, Jeffrey Hinton, is from Cambridge. But आप जब इन सारे लोगों को सुनेंगे, तो मुझे जो synthesize करके समझ में आई है, they want us to be more human. जो हमारी human qualities of working together, of ethics, of collaboration, वो सब की सब जो हैं, वो AI एक हद से ज़्यादा वहाँ तक नहीं पहुँच सकेगा, और अगर पहुँचेगा तो फिर आपका अपना नुकसान है. You need to be smarter than the system that you have created. और वो जो थोड़ी सी हमारे पे, आपने शायद एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग मिसाल लम्स के एक प्रोफेसर ने दी थी कि a lot of you might have seen this movie called Planet of the Apes. वो एक्चुअली एक बुक थी, and some of us who had brothers grew up watching it on repeat and did not like it. कि बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया. बट इवेंचुअली क्या हुआ था, ह्यूमंस बिकेम सो लेजी कि उन्होंने सारा कुछ जो था उनको दे दिया था, डेलीगेट कर दिया था, और फिर हमने सोचना छोड़ दिया था. तो अभी जो चीज़ हमारे लिए इम्पॉर्टेंट है कि हम सोचना छोड़ नहीं सकते, अभी हमें मज़ीद सोचना है ज़्यादा. पहले तो बाय डिफ़ॉल्ट होता था, अब बाय डिज़ाइन एंड बाय रिफ्लेक्शन करना पड़ेगा. तो थैंक यू सो मच. इट वॉज सच एन इंसाइटफुल कॉन्वर्सेशन. आई लर्नड अ लॉट. And I'm sure our teachers around here, you've been very nice, patient listeners. And we have to take 3 questions. हमें आपस में बातों में इतना मज़ा आ रहा था कि I think we ran over time. So I think people are already raising their hands. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I wanted to face my panel right here. First of all, congratulations to each one of you for hosting a very inciting panel. And just a little bit of a take-home out of some of the conversations that you had. From threads out of Sitara's conversation, we were discussing rethinking assessments and placements. I think it's time to rethink the learning outcomes out of assessments and placements rather than debate assessments. You see, until the grade 4 within our own schools at the Millennium education, we're not benchmarking our learning outcomes to exams or assessments. Base तो हम बना देते हैं ना, जो each one of us focuses कि हमने बच्चे की base बनानी है. Grade 4 तक enough time है कि हम उसकी base बनाएं. And then of course, in grade 5, whether it's Pearson's I primary or onwards, Cambridge checkpoints, exam is one form which is part of a certain qualification. It is a parent's prerogative that he or she, whether they want to opt for Cambridge or IB qualification or any other philosophy or local stream. I think it's enough to debate it. It's important for us as learner agency agents. It's important for us to focus on the service. Because when we talk about agency, we have to look into ourselves as agents. And as agents, what is that we provide? We provide service. लेकिन service तो हर industry बाहर दे रही है. हर school बाहर service दे रहा है. It's not just the Millennium education. What is going to make this service different? There's one art to it, and that is called hospitality. You have to embed hospitality as an art in your personality. It is the attitude of hospitality that will make the service different, that will make the memory of the learning journey different when we look at every child's perspective. You will stand tall as a classroom practitioner based on your service where you embed hospitality. Hospitality is an attitude. The world offers it. Each and every industry offers it. We have to offer it as well. How an admission officer welcomes a parent when he or she walks into your school for the first time, they do expect hospitality. It is part of our culture. पानी का ग्लास पूछ लें, बैठें, कैसे आप, how's your day been, blah, blah. Just a basic conversation, good attitude, positive attitude. Hospitality is expected of principals as well. Hospitality is expected of the teachers as well. So let's focus on the service rather than rethink assessments. Don't worry about assessments. Ladies and gentlemen, the world has created options. A-levels, Cambridge, Pearson, B.Tech, equivalent to A-levels. There are no exams to that. Constant assessments and assignments is a particular framework recognized by IBCC. Why am I saying that? Yes, I'm a sponsor of K-12 education, but when I look at the transnational model that we offer in Pakistan, which is under the umbrella of the Millennium Universal Colleges, there's phenomenal opportunity for every child. So don't worry. Do not let your children develop this anxiety about assessment. Give them the comfort. Ki beta, it's all right. Let's focus on this particular unit. Picking up Sidara's thread, कि exam तो आखिर में आता है ना, unit है, chapter है. Each and every unit and chapter has an assessment at the end. If he or she is performing well in that particular assessment, naturally, they will do phenomenal at the end of the term. So step by step. And when coming back to transnational education, NCC's foundation, B.Tech's, Pearson's B.Tech, these are all, and even undergrad. There are universities which are now do not have exams, but have assignments and courseworks to themselves. So please do not let your children become overwhelmed. Educate them. You have to learn yourselves to educate them. You have to believe in the fact that these are different qualifications, and yes, they're provided by the most profound and most reputable authorities, exam bodies of the world, and they have created different forms of qualifications, certifications, and ongoing systems of undergrad and postgrad degrees. So there's a variety which is now being offered in academia, and it does not end on exam only. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We now only have time for one last question.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Sundus Khan from the Kingston campus, and I have a question for all of you. You rightfully pointed out that these days, it's in Pakistan especially, education is not just about educating the child, it's educating the family. You have to convince the parents, make them sit in, like Dr. Afshan mentioned, that sit through the process of teaching, not only just early years, far ahead, you know, they should become a part of the observations, what say Ma'am Sadia Kashif, you know, be there, watch us teach, and then they'll be confident about whether rethinking assessments and placements and whatsoever goes on, and they're able to understand all of this. Sometimes it becomes really hard for us to convince the parents. So what do you have to say about that? What opportunities do we give to the parents? We have such a forum. Do parents have such a forum where they are educated about the system? Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Saba?
The school system that I don't want to name right now, with which I'm doing this, actually this consultancy, that how do we involve parents and how do we develop the portfolios of every child, and how do we... Thank you for saying that. We usually have open days, as we call them open days, but they are not actually open. The open day is an open conversation between parents and the teachers and school administration as well. Very rightly said, the way we are sitting here today, we are talking to each other, we are taking questions. We do not have a tradition of having such platforms where teachers and parents interact. In the model of early years education, we do have this framework given, which says that in every term, beginning of the term, there will be classroom-based discussions with the parents. In the mid of the term, there will be an open day. And during that open day, every parent knows, as she said, this is a very personal thing for every child and for parents, that their children should not be compared with others, but they know the profile of their child. So they sit together in this kind of a setup, they talk to each other, and by the end of the semester, the teachers do not only write the assessment report, the parent also writes a section of it.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's really powerful. And yes, please.
See, just one addition. I think parents also need to be informed and made aware about the opportunities out there. So what does it mean for an analytical child? It's not just being an engineer, it's not just being an accountant. You can still be an architect, you can still be an artist, you can still be a digital web developer. You could be somebody who's creating a digital strategy. You are somebody who's creating a digital marketplace. So there are so new avenues opening up, which we as parents are unaware of, and we feel that the competition is growing. You see, competition is not growing, the population is growing. The competition will remain the same. When the population grows, simultaneously the productivity and the world economies are growing. With that growth of economy, the opportunities and the type of opportunities are growing. So please work, I request all the school systems to create a map of current opportunities and how we, while being relevant to the global context, everybody wants to move and work abroad, but you can do the same thing while working in Pakistan. So please, opportunity. Just one thing for the parents to understand, and the best thing that a parent can do for the children is to help them manage their time, become disciplined, and nothing else. Step away.
Thank you. That's a parent speaking right
one
there.
last comment.
So I think हम over time है, तो इस वजह से I'm sorry I'm going because we haven't been able to take questions. एक बड़ा important point मुझे remind कराया गया, which I really want to say again. Please think about sustainability, green skills, and green economy. I think this is the one thing that is going to stay always. We have to be sustainable. We have to make our children sustainable. अगर आप 5 साल के बच्चे को ये सिखाएंगे या 4 साल के बच्चे को to be environmentally aware, जो कि हम नहीं थे, तो फिर आपको उसको दोबारा से सिखाना नहीं पड़ेगा. And again, there's a lot of opportunity in all of that. So I think that discussion we will have for another time. Really enjoyed learning from all of you, hearing from Anna and the very insightful questions. I leave this place far better informed than I came here. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Faisal. Thank you, Roots Millennium, for giving us this opportunity, which we rarely get. So thank you, everyone, and over to the next panel.
Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for an extremely insightful panel discussion. Thank you so much, Ms. Uzma Yousaf. Dr. Faisal, please may I request you to join us on the stage. Mr. Abbas Hussain, Ms. Iram Atif, can you please join us on the stage? Ma'am Anna Faisal, can you please join us on the stage to give away mementos to a very, very exciting panel. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Ms. Uzma Yousaf, Country Director, Cambridge International Education. Another round of applause for Mr. Asad Hameed Khan, CEO, Head of ACCA Pakistan. Ms. Afshan Huma, author, educator, and psychologist, She's also a fantastic faculty who teaches our MA education program with the Millennium Universal College. And I'm sure some of you are her students here as well. Thank you, Ms. Afshan. Ms. Sitara Fareed, the Millennium Education, from the Millennium Education Group, our head of DIQCA. Ms. Sitara Fareed, everybody. And special thanks to Ms. Sadia Kashif, who stepped in very gracefully at the last minute for the panel because unfortunately one of the panelists could not make it. Thank you, Ms. Sadia. She's leading our school evaluation and enhancement department.